Kia ora koutou. Welcome to HR Chats with me, to Radar, chatting all things HR, courtesy of HRNZ. Today, we are discussing the fascinating topic of Pacifica and the Pacifica workforce with Danica Hape-Tiria. She is a leader, she is a connector, she is a disruptor. Currently, she is head of people and culture at Tower Insurance. 19 years of experience within HR has given her, well, a wealth of experience in this particular sector, and particularly at Tower, where 58% of their workforce identify as non-European, the majority representing the Pacific, so a lot of cultural diversity. So kia ora, Danica, how are you?
Kia ora, Radar. I am good, thank you.
Good. Hey, look, here's my first question to kind of set the scene. Now, most people will have a pretty good understanding of the nature of the Pacific and Pacifica workforce. Do we need a definition of what it is, of Pacific? Is it Polynesian, Melanesian, Micronesian, the entire Pacific? How do you define it when you're kind of talking about it or thinking about it?
Yeah, so it's all of that. It's multicultural. So Tower Insurance is across 8 countries. And then the 9th one is obviously Aotearoa, New Zealand. So we're across American Samoa, Cook Islands, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, Vanuatu, and the Solomon Islands. So it is, when we're talking about our Pacifica cousins, it is across all of those countries with different cultures all over.
And, you know, I'm thinking about each of those countries, and not one of them the same. Huge differences between them. Is there a danger that we simply put all of these vastly disparate sort of cultural groups within one box of Pacifica?
Absolutely. So I think what's really important is that we are different and we do have different cultures, although there will be some similarities in terms of, you know, things and values that will be the same. So for example, religion and family and whānau, that is really important to all of those communities. And I would even say Māori as well. You know, religion, family, food's another one that brings us all together and connects us. And then I think the other piece is respect and caring for our tupuna or our ancestors, and really ensuring that we nurture the environment. And so I think in terms of those categories, they would be the same, and they're very similar across those cultures. But we are different, and it's people understanding that we are different, and we have, you know, different things that will drive, engage, and motivate us as a workforce. But when we are a collective and we're united across those 4 synergies that I just mentioned, we can be quite powerful as a collective group.
And there's obviously, you know, it's working for Tower. How do you go about, you know, because you firsthand experience of securing and retaining a really large portion of Pacifica people in your particular workforce?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I guess what I would say, I've only been at Tower for 7 months now. Originally, I was at ASB Bank, so I've come from a banking environment. What I would say is one of the things that attracted me to Tower was that Pacifica community and the ability to do something with Māori and Pacifica people. And I think, you know, what astounded me is Tower doesn't have any targets. We don't have diversity targets. We don't have gender. So I guess that really, I was quite surprised by that. And I think we've organically grown naturally. But that representation, I guess, is because we do have Pacifica leaders across those 8 diverse countries where they've organically hired and attracted some of those ethnicities, which I think is quite unique. We do need to talk about it more because it's just happened naturally. So I kind of think what if we do celebrate that and communicate that and really harness it to uplift more diversity across tower insurance? So yeah, we've got no targets at the moment, and that's, you know, what we're trying to look at the moment is we've actually got 5 work streams that we're looking to uplift and embed more, and really target some of our kind of advantages on some of these stats, harness that, lock it in, and then use that as a talent magnet to attract good talent out there for our organization.
When it comes to that attraction, do you find that in a way like attracts like? I mean, you were clearly enticed into the role because of this large sort of multicultural element. Do you see other people looking at that and actually going, hey, I want to go and I want to be with them. That's an important thing. So in a way, there's a momentum at Tower that maybe some other businesses might not have.
Absolutely, and I think in our the other 8 countries outside of Aotearoa, that is definitely an advantage. And the fact that we, you know, our rangatahi or our young ones, they are attracted by who is leading them. And obviously when they see Pacifica of the same, you know, cultural background from them, that will be a natural attraction anyway. And so we're quite lucky that we have got cultural leaders that will naturally look at probably a diverse mix of people that might not be the same in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And, you know, that's why a lot of organisations are doing a lot of work to have diverse panels so that we're attracting a mixture of people. Whereas that comes naturally in the Pacific because, you know, usually our sort of multicultural groups will be hardworking. They may not have all the qualifications that you need, but actually they're hard workers and they just need support and to be given a chance to show them or showcase their talents. And I guess when you've got some cultural leaders in that space in those countries, that's an attraction for them. And that seems to be working really well here.
Having said all of that, how does that then influence all of your kind of HR practices and your processes and your policies?
Yeah, so the things we're focusing on at the moment, there is a bit of a difference in the recruitment side. I guess we've been very lucky to have some of the, you know, I mentioned it before, cultural leaders, so they will naturally attract some of that diversity. However, in Aotearoa, we do make sure now that we're posting all the jobs. We're also looking internal, so bringing through internal talent. I think it's really important that as a hiring manager, you should have mixed people on your panel, meaning not just people from your department. You know, naturally you will recruit people like you. That's human nature. That's naturally what you would do. If you have another person that might be of a different culture that might challenge your decision making, then I would absolutely have that person on that panel with you. And then also looking at female male as well, because they think differently. So just ensuring that your attraction is making sure you're targeting different people and not putting things like you need this and this and this qualification. It's more about do you like this type of work? What are your transferable skills? So that's the attraction point. Then having a mixed, diverse panel and really ensuring that your processes were robust and challenged. So I guess that's where we're sort of heading towards in terms of that direction to get the right talent in. The other piece we're looking at is, we do use Te Whare Tapawha, which are the 4 cornerstones of health and well-being. It's a Māori concept that was already embedded in Tower when I arrived. So that's really good. Everybody knows what that means. With COVID, that's been a massive, made a massive impact and difference. We have a workplace site where we went through those themes, especially during Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. But not only the week, we made it a month. We also look at that concept for Tongan Language Week. So that's embedded already as a practice in terms of the health and wellbeing side, which I think is really important at the moment, working from home. I mean, we've had Fiji be in lockdown for 5 months. They've only just come out of that. So that was a big change for them, and just ensuring that wellness and wellbeing was, looked at and carefully talked about every week. The other practices are around ensuring that some of our frameworks also cater for the way Māori and Pacifica to get the best out of them. And what I mean by that is, their interviewing process or their assessment centres, if you're looking at graduates and interns, might be slightly different. Rather than a classroom setting or virtually sitting down doing things, it's about first bringing them all together, talking about their identity, doing a mihi or a greeting in their native tongue, ensuring that we tautoko them, so support them when they're going through that assessment centre, and really nurturing them. So it's setting up those frameworks in terms of if you're looking for those sorts of programs. I think also easy things in terms of policies. It could be some of your values being turned into their language, so that they're really connecting and feeling included. I also think from an employment relations perspective, when you're performance managing or going through a disciplinary process, you use some of the protocols from their backgrounds. If we think of in Aotearoa at the moment, it's tikanga. That's kind of the word and the theme going on. And it's just ensuring that people are treated with dignity and respect. So going through those disciplinary processes, it's always uncomfortable, but it's ensuring that you're respecting them with the mana that they deserve, but in a way that both parties are kind of a win-win. So ensuring things like they can invite family as their support people, so those are some of the things we currently have today and moving towards. I think the other thing is also learning and development. So how do you create leadership programs or frameworks that really harness and get some of our people to realise their potential in a way that they would have done growing up, being respectful, giving them a chance to shine, because most of our cultures are very, very shy. They won't go, pick me. And then all of a sudden, a light will shine, they will flourish, and you go, oh my gosh, where did that come from? So it's ensuring you're setting up leadership frameworks or career development pathways to, cater for how you get the best out of our people. Yeah.
This is great. I literally didn't have to ask any questions because you're answering them. But I was thinking during that, there were two things that came up. And one is we're having this conversation around I think the vaccine rollout, which is very, very clearly suggesting to people, informing people that there are communities outside of the normal bounds of kind of communication. So do you specifically use different networks to look for recruits? Do you so that's the first question. And then the second question after that is coming back to the recruiters and the HR professionals themselves who have been listening to this and thinking, okay, yes, it would be good to bring in some of these cultural practices, but I'm unfamiliar with them and I would like to do it in a way that simply isn't tokenism. How do they go about that? So I guess a twofold question. One, do you specifically use non-mainstream recruitment methods? And then the second one with how do people, figure out how to do this?
Yeah, and that is a gap. And I guess, we don't have enough Māori or Pacific people in human resources roles. So I'm very lucky because I've come from a kind of background of tikanga, but also I've learned I wasn't always strong in that. I've had to kind of reconnect and learn that, and I was very lucky to have someone joined our organisation that kind of reminded me about where I'm from and why being Māori is important. And so you'll have some people in your organisation that are your go-to people because they're either Māori or they're Pacific, and you go to them for guidance. But what I would say is not all of them feel comfortable doing that. And so they are on a journey as well. And then obviously people would look externally to get some of that cultural advice, if you like. And I do think when organisations are recruiting in the human resources space or the talent space or learning and development, they really do need to look at who is out there that could help us with that. Because I think the other thing is we don't always, you'll pay an external company to come in and give you cultural advice and how to set up your frameworks around that. But the people that they use internally sometimes won't get paid for it. And this is where the tokenism comes in sometimes, or people feel like, oh, you're not paying me, I'm doing it on top of my job. And I've been through that journey. But the reason people do it is because they're so passionate about our people and our culture that we want to do it, because it's a great thing about our roles, why we do it as extra. So look, I think you just need to, I think organisations, in terms of the recruitment question, not every organisation will have that person. And so I would first look at what is your demographics of your workforce and who in those, who is Māori, who is Pacifica. Maybe get a group together and talk about it and ask them how would they like to do it. Because what you might find is that there is an expert in there that is passionate and actually knows the protocols and some of that cultural stuff. So do that first. If there's no one, then obviously you'd need to look outside and see, who can help through iwis. I know in Aotearoa there's Ngāti Whātua in Auckland, but there'll be some iwis or community groups that will be crying out to help you. They are very supportive. So I'd do that first. In terms of other groups you look for recruiting, we usually just tap into areas like, universities, obviously, but look at who your local community groups are through iwi. I'm lucky, we've got a bit of a network in Tāmaki Makaurau where there's Māori representatives across a few organisations. And so we created kind of a village viaduct group where we meet and talk about these things, and we all have networks. So, looking at your ministries, who's on those school communities, you'll find that some of the community hubs actually would have demographics of Pacifica. Obviously, the other group I use is Whāriki, which is a Māori network. They support Māori networks. So it is your connections, but someone will know somebody. And so it's just going outside of your comfort zones around agencies and who you use. And it's usually when you start talking and networking to people, they'll put you onto other groups is kind of my advice, yeah.
Being Māori and working with, diverse Pacifica people, did you have any sort of one of those aha moments at any stage where you suddenly thought everything I knew may not necessarily be right?
I've had lots of those. So, I remember, I'm pretty staunch Māori. I come from a family of 7. I've got 5 brothers. My mum's European, my dad's Māori. So kind of being brought up mainly on my Māori side. But I think when I lived in the UK for 4 years, I came back to New Zealand to have my daughter. And one of the first people that I met at the bank was this young, bright Tongan girl called Rowena Bryce. And she was in payroll. And, it was funny because I think we were the only brown people in HR at the time. This was about 18 years ago. We were in this little office. And she was so happy to see me. She was like, oh my gosh, another brown face, Danica. And so she was Tongan. And I guess, at the start, I was kind of like, oh, she's Tongan, I'm Māori, we're a bit different. What I actually discovered was we were kind of the same in terms of what we wanted to achieve, how we wanted to help our people, and we've come a long way since then. And so, I think what I've learned is, yes, cultures are different, and some people think we are the same. We're not. But I guess it's that, connection that we had around wanting to achieve the same outcomes for our people and our culture, but doing it together in a collective, united way. We kind of use kōtahitanga. If you have Māori and Pacific groups together, they are very, very powerful in terms of the outcomes you can get for customers, for our people, and for the community. And so, me and her are still best friends. We soundboard things, and we look back now on our careers and go, man, we've actually come a long way since that little office when we were payroll officers. And our representation has skyrocketed, so yeah, I guess that's probably one of the main things I would say.
I just wanted to pick you up on one of the little comments that you made there, because people always think, the diverse workforce is good for business and customers, but communities as well. What's the importance there across that kind of broader sense of being that, I guess, not only a role model business, but a business that other businesses can look to, or that communities can look to?
Yeah, it's unique, I think, and I do see the benefit of it to our customers in terms of, if I think about our Pacific countries, we're successful in the Pacific because they know their people. They can, sort of understand where they're coming from, what their needs are. So from that perspective, it's good. And from a community perspective, I think sometimes communities aren't used to seeing kind of corporates or financial institutions having a big multicultural percentage, or faces that are like them. And so, I think the beauty there is once they realize that and we connect with them, we open up so many different pathways for them in the community, from sponsorships to careers to, just confidence building and belief. And I think that's really important because all of a sudden you have aligned values and you have aligned trust. And so I think that, just off the top of my head, I think that would be probably an advantage.
Look, I'm going to put you on the spot. You've just given us, a succession of excellent advice and insights and wisdom. If you had one little nugget of information that you could impart to a fellow HR professional who's working with Pacific or Māori, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think my one nugget would be to give them a chance and look beyond the CV and the qualifications. Really look at what value they're going to bring and really look at the story behind the CV. It might be they've got sort of mediocre average grades, but they could have worked 3 jobs. That tells me they're hardworking and they're willing to give anything a go and are resilient. So, I think that would be, as an HR professional, I think, look behind the results and give people a chance, because sometimes that's all they're wanting is for you to, they're reaching out to go, just let me do it and I will prove to you, and that has actually happened in some of my interns I've had where they've now hugely successful. So that would probably be my one thing, is look beyond the qualifications and really drill down and see what's behind it.
Brilliant. You clearly love your work.
I do. I do.
Yeah. What's the thing you like about it the most?
Look, it's changed as I've got older. At the start, it was kind of just work. I was always taught by my grandmother, work hard and you'll get the results. I think what's changed for me now is I have a purpose behind what I do. And that purpose is to help rangatahi because they're our future. They're our future leaders. They're the group that is going through, different things that I did when I was growing up. They've got these lockdowns to deal with, all this mental well-being, social media. So yeah, I love it because in my role right now as an HR professional, I have an opportunity to increase representation for Māori and Pacific people. And whether that's just getting them a career or a job, or making them realise their potential and how they can do better, that's kind of my purpose and why I love human resources. If I moved out of that, I don't know if I could have an impact as great as my role now, even when I was at the bank. So yes, I do. I love people. I love, it feeds my soul actually, especially dealing with Māori and Pacific. But I also like non-Māori that want to know about our culture and they love the storytelling behind some of our philosophies and frameworks. So yeah, that's what I'm passionate about, and that is why.
Well, I just felt this is exactly the conversation I needed to be a part of at this particular point in time, where we are going through a lot of change and disruption, having people out there who are just opening the door and making sure that, that there is access for all. Must be fun, Tower.
It is so much fun, and we're on a bit of a journey at the moment. Like, don't get me wrong, we haven't got everything right, but we're on a bit of a journey around refreshing our values, our employee value proposition, and really harnessing the fact that we're a Kiwi listed company, because not many people know that. And we want to do something big around really living and breathing inclusion. So we kind of put inclusion before diversity, because I think it's including everyone of all cultures and really making them feel motivated and wanting to come to work every day, I think. So yes, we're on a bit of a journey, but it's so exciting, and just trying to, deliver simple and rewarding experiences for our customers, but also experiences for our people. Yeah.
Brilliant. Danica Hape-Tiria. She is Head of People and Culture at Tower Insurance. Some of you may now be reassessing your own personal employment and actually having a little chat with Danica and seeing if you might go and work at Tower. Sounds great. I wouldn't be very good. I'm hopeless. Hey, look, thank you so much for this wonderful kōrero that we've had around connecting and with Pacific and Māori communities and how to make your business a little bit more inclusive. We shall let you go about your day. For the rest of you, if you have just joined us for the first of these HR chats with me, Terada, well, welcome aboard. We have plenty more on the website. And a reminder, if there is anyone you would like us to talk to, anything you would like us to talk about, get in touch with Tina at HRNZ and we'll see if we can make that happen. From me, for now, that's it. Goodbye.